Let's do some player grades. Who was your Dallas Stars MVP this season? Who left much to be desired? And more, all coming up next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Happy Thursday, Stars fans. We'll have a Free Agent Friday tomorrow. We'll dip into some of the top free agent forwards tomorrow that I think the Dallas Stars should keep an eye on. But first, let's do some player grades from the Dallas Stars in 2023-24. I'm going to give each player a letter grade, and we'll pick out the Dallas Stars MVP, someone that needs to be much more improved, and a whole lot more. We'll start with the forward group today. We'll go to defense and then segue into goaltenders with Jake Oettinger and Scott Wedgewood. So plenty to discuss on today's episode of Locked On Stars. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, play along with me in the comment section. Let me know what your player grades would be from this past season. I have a couple criteria that I will explain here in just a bit. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So my percentage of the pie for these player grades, I'm going to go 60% regular season just because it is a full body of work and you have to give them credit for playing a full 82 or at least most of the year. 40% I'm going to decide based off playoff performance. So it can move the letter grade up or down about half or so, depending on a great playoff performance or if you left much to be desired. And there was multiple forwards that we'll jump into that I think left a lot to be desired in the postseason this year. We'll start with the top line, and we'll go with what we saw for most of the season. Let's begin with Jason Robertson. And obviously he had another very, very average season in terms of a point total. He led the Stars with 80 points, just 29 goals, 51 assists. His playoff performance was pretty decent. You would have liked him to be a bit more involved in certain aspects, but he still was tied for a team lead with 16 points throughout the postseason. Obviously had the wonderful hat trick in Game 3 against Edmonton. I would give Robo, based off what we saw a year prior, and I know he didn't have as lively as a postseason a year ago either. I think I would give Robo a B+ for this year. I think he has a lot more to give, and I think he's going to continue to evolve and adapt his game and get better and better. But I think by his standards, I would give Robo a B+. Now we move over to the center that drives that line and Roope Hintz. Another 30-goal season for him. It's 3 straight, 65 points on the year. He was obviously dealing with a nagging injury, so I don't give him a ton of flack for what he did in the postseason, even though it really, really hurt Dallas. We're still waiting on the end of season sort of injury report coming from Jim Nill at some point. We are still waiting for that to see who was dealing with what. They are still going through medical evaluations and all that good stuff. So we still don't quite know what he was dealing with or maybe how significant it was. I think I would give Roope a B+ too. Nothing spectacular. I don't think he deserves an A, but certainly had a very nice season. And unfortunately for him, it's just staying healthy, which is the real concern. And he played in 80 games this season, but time and time again, he misses significant stretches in the postseason, and it continues to hinder Dallas. He has to find a way to be healthy at this point in the season when you're talking about April and May. And look, some of that is not to it's out of his hands. He took a cross check for McKinnon in that series against Colorado that seemed to knock him out, and I think he was dealing with something else in that Vegas series. So who knows what was taking place with Roope Hintz at the time. All right, that moves on to what could possibly be the last season of his career in Joe Pavelski. At 39 years old, he was second on the team in points, 67 points, 82 games, a really, really nice regular season from Captain America, 11 power play goals that led the team as well. But obviously his postseason was not up to standards. He just had 4 points and just 1 goal. You think back and what 4 to 7 power play, or not power play goals, but goals in general from Joe, and what that could have done from the Stars. So Joe Pavelski, my letter grade would be a C plus, due to the fact that he was a real liability for Dallas in the postseason. He did a lot more harm than good. And I know I touted his impact in the locker room, and I think that still rings true. But I talked about it coming out of the series against Edmonton. He was the 4th most used forward for Dallas. And at 39 years old, there was no reason for that. Look, maybe some of the blame doesn't deserve to go on him and more on Pete DeBoer for the usage of him, but he really, really struggled, especially on the defensive end, and I think hurt Dallas in a lot of ways. So I give Joe a C plus. I know he had a really nice regular season once again, but he needed to have much more of an impact in the postseason. Let's move to the second line. And this is where I get into the Dallas Stars MVP. I was mulling this over last night, and I think you could go a number of different ways. And I think throughout the entire regular season, you could handpick 3 to 5 different individuals who maybe deserves the Dallas Stars MVP. But I keep coming back to this one, and that's Wyatt Johnston. I think from day one all the way through the postseason, he was your best player on most nights. And that's no offense to Miro Heiskanen. Wasn't his best regular season, elevated himself during the playoffs, and still had a really, really strong year. But I think Wyatt Johnston was one of the big, big keys for Dallas, and really, frankly, a huge reason why they even got to the Western Conference Final. Because while you were waiting for others to start to find their game, Wyatt was consistent all year long, has a breakout season, 32 goals this year, 65 points, make it 10 goals in the postseason, tied for the team lead with 16 points, and he scored some big, big goals. Has a huge one in Game 7 against Vegas. Not only did he just score timely goals, but he scored those goals, the Game 3 overtime, to keep Dallas from going down 3-0 in that first round series. I thought he was phenomenal all year long. He's going to continue to get better and evolve his game. I say it constantly. He's an elite two-way center iceman in this game, and he will be a thrill to watch for years to come. So Wyatt Johnston would be my MVP. He gets an A+. He passes with flying colors, albeit maybe expectations weren't as high for him as someone like Robertson, but he exceeded every expectation and had a phenomenal year and postseason. So my Dallas Stars MVP goes to Wyatt Johnston this year. That leads me to Jamie Benn. A very, very nice regular season, 60 points. Not too upset about that. I really, really look at Jamie Benn when it comes to the playoffs, and he was really good. 15 points in 19 games. He was a force. Loved the way he played, had physicality to his game. He led. Perfect example of what you want from your captain in the postseason. I give Jamie Benn an A- season. Thought he was really, really good. Not to the level of Wyatt Johnston or the consistency. I thought his first half of the year wasn't great by any stretch, but he really turned it on at the key part of the season leading into the Stanley Cup playoffs and really, really finished strong. I give him an A minus and really, really like the way Jamie Benn played. Now, Logan Stankoven, of course, comes up in February, and I think the real turning point in the season, at least a turning point in terms of keeping in the race of the Western Conference and winning the West and having home ice advantage. You remember when Stankoven got called up, I think it was on the verge of 3 straight losses, a couple OT losses in February where they really struggled and they weren't getting offense. They weren't finding a rhythm. And then boom, he gets called up and provides some life and some juice, some fresh legs for Dallas. And obviously he carried that into a wonderful, wonderful final 3 months of the season. He was all over the ice. He only had 8 points in the playoffs, but his impact rings much, much larger than that. He will always be someone that has an impact on the ice, whether or not he is scoring. Stankoven, for his first season in the NHL, I think he'll still be considered a rookie. Can't remember the cutoff for that. I'm pretty sure he'll still be considered a rookie when we enter next season. I give him an A minus maybe. I think for expectations and what you expect out of someone like that, maybe that's me glazing him a bit, but I put him in like an A minus. I think he was really impactful. And he was part of the most consistent line for Dallas for the last 2 months of the season. And he had a role in that and a pretty big role. So big ups to Logan Stankoven. Now we move to the Dutchie line. Matt Duchene, obviously a very, very good regular season. I called him the best value in the National Hockey League like the entire year. He ended up with 65 points and 25 goals. What more could you have asked out of him? But not a good postseason. Had the one moment with the big overtime game winner against Colorado, but after that, pretty lackluster, and he really, really struggled to drive offense for Dallas in a lot of ways. I give Duchene. I think in the C's would be too harsh. I think a B minus, and the postseason really leaves a bitter taste in my mouth, unfortunately. But that's when I was expecting him to really have a huge, huge impact, right? He was the player, the X factor to get them over the hump, and it just wasn't quite the case. So B minus for me for Matt Duchene. Let's go to his right with Tyler Seguin. Look, I'll come out straight and say it. I give him an A right away. Wonderful postseason, 25 goals in the regular season. That's also dealing with an injury. And I'm curious to hear what he was dealing with, because he probably came back when he wasn't quite 100%, even at the end of the year. And he still had a phenomenal postseason, 13 points, scored some big time goals. He was a real versatile forward for Pete DeBoer. He can move him up to that top line, move him back with Duchene. You could have him with Dodonov and Pavelski, you name it. He was really, really good this year. He gets an A, probably could have had 35 in the regular season if he played all 82. I truly believe that. And he was great at 5-on-5. I think he led all stars and even strength goals this season. He was second, behind Wyatt Johnston, which makes a lot of sense. Of course, 22 even strength goals. So big ups to Tyler Seguin and the year he had. Okay, real quickly to wrap up this first segment, if we look at the fourth line, Radek Faksa, I would post him around a B. Just, pretty average season. Radek Faksa does Radek Faksa. Sam Steele, really, really loved this edition. I thought a lot of Stars fans would fall in love with him, and he was great. I give him a B+. Really, really stepped in and did a nice job. He was in and out of the lineup for the first few months, then found himself in an everyday basis. He was great on the kill, which you really needed him to. Scored 9 goals for you. He chipped in 24 points, had a pretty decent postseason with 5 points. Look, I think exactly what you expect out of your fourth line. Craig Smith, I would put him right as a B2. I see him in a very similar role to Steele, although he doesn't penalty kill. He gave you tough minutes, had double-digit goals this season, played in 75 games, and I think was just a real strong fourth line player that you brought in. Dadonov, got to show him some love. I give him a B+. He gets a bump above Steele and Smith just because of his postseason. He was really nice for Dallas. He ended up with 7 points. And look, for someone that is supposed to be your third to fourth line winger, you chip in 3 goals. You add some depth scoring. He got some time with the big boys at some points, and I thought was a really great all-around player for Dallas on both ends of the rink. And I thought he was one of the few forwards you could say really exceeded my expectations coming in. Look, I'm on the record as saying I don't know if you want to bring him in. He didn't play for 3 months, and all of a sudden you're going to put him into the playoff lineup. Look, I was wrong on that. He was great and had a huge impact. So there are my forward grades for the Dallas Stars in 2023-24. Tried to run through those rather quickly, but Dallas Stars MVP, I think, goes to Wyatt Johnston this season. What an incredible year he had. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know who your Dallas Stars MVP would be for this season. I think you can go a multitude of ways. Let's segue into the defense. Who is your highest graded defenseman from this past season? We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is obsessed with finding you ways to save money on tickets. You can get your seats, your all-in prices get shown up front, and last-minute deals with Game Time. Take all the guesswork out of buying tickets. You want to go see your favorite artist that is on tour. You want to go see a comedian that's in theaters. You name it, Game Time has it. And, of course, you can go watch your favorite stars, your favorite Rangers, Mavs, players in person. They have it with Game Time. You can see the view from your seats before you buy it, so you know exactly what you're getting, and you don't have to worry about getting blocked out by a roll or a railing, a window, you name it. We've all been there before, going to different arenas, and you get tickets, you sit down. I wouldn't have bought these if I known there was a railing in front of it, there was a pole. That's why I use Game Time. Takes all the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Alrighty, we start with the easiest defenseman to grade, and I think we can just go ahead and pencil him in for the next decade, and that'll be Miro Heiskanen. He gets an A+, flying colors. If I had to grade his regular season, to be honest, maybe a B+. I just think his postseason, it adds a full letter grade with what he did against some of the top players in the game. He always elevates his play in the postseason. 16 points this year. He only had 54 in the regular season, but you look at Miro's career in the postseason, and he is starting to put together a really nice resume. 85 games, 16 goals, 45 assists. That's a total of 61 points. So he's played about a season worth of postseason games, and he's just 24 years of age, which is pretty hard to believe. On top of that, he's taking on the biggest responsibility in terms of defending the Nathan McKinnons of the world, the Dreisaitl's, the McDavids, the Eichels, you name it, he plays against them, and he does a wonderful job at shutting them down. Very, very good on special teams for the most part. Look, power play, you can give him some flack there. It was really, really atrocious, especially in that series against Edmonton, but a whole body of work, just plays the most. I mean, the postseason minutes he put up are pretty staggering. You look at his average time on ice, 28 minutes, over 28 a night. And that's the most of his career, albeit the circumstances on defense for the Stars plays into that. But you can't ask for much more from Miro Heiskanen. Now let's go to his partner for the majority of the year in Thomas Harley. I have a hard time giving him somewhere the beast. I think he's an A-, really elevated himself. He's kind of he is the second best defenseman, and I think still has the ability to reach maybe the level of Miro. And you're talking about two elite defensemen the Stars could have in the near future. I give him an A-. He did not have a great postseason, but he led the Stars defense in goals this year. And unfortunately just could not find the back of the net in the playoffs. But 15 goals, 32 assists, 47 points. That's a real nice season for what I think you consider his rookie year. His first full season in the NHL. He'll learn from this postseason. He'll get a lot better. He has to improve defensively a bit more and find a way to impact the game on an offensive level. I think there was some hesitation in his game, some lack of urgency, which led to some of his decline in the postseason. Just struggle with the puck a bit much, but for the most part, have to like where Harley is at. Okay, let's go with the wonderful trade deadline acquisition, Chris Tanev. He's an A+. Everything you could have wanted out of Chris Tanev. You look at the expected goals against numbers. As soon as he comes over from Dallas, it drops. He not only makes himself better, he was a perfect fit in Dallas. He made everybody he played with better. Him and Lindell were a shutdown pairing against Jack Eichel and company, against McKinnon and company. They didn't have as much of an impact against McDavid. But look, they played a lot of minutes too. They were really good in terms of the PK. They were strong there, blocked a ton of shots. Tanev and Lindell were a great package. And I think if you had an unsung hero for the Dallas Stars this season, it would probably go to Lindell. Uri brought that up in yesterday's episode. I thought it was a great point. He's just someone that was kind of forgotten about, and he really struggled a year ago. And you're like, man, if he could really drop off, because the way his style of game plays, it's very stay-at-home-ish, right? But I thought a lot of times this year, you saw Essa jump up into the rush. He was active. He scored the second most goals amongst defense. He had 5 on the year, or third, behind Miro. I thought a real steady season and a bounce back year for Essa when they really, really needed him, because if he had another year of decline, and you're talking about a lot of trouble defensively for Dallas, and they could have been in a much worse position. I thought Lindell had a really solid year, and I think deserves the unsung hero of the Dallas Stars for this season. To wrap up with your final defenseman, Ryan Suter. Look, you get a C, just right. He played well for large parts of the season, but when you asked him to be really good, when you really needed him, I think that's where I live with Ryan Suter. He was a big liability at the biggest moments of the season, and I've defended him for a lot of the year because I thought he was really strong, and for the most part, he played really well for the first 2 rounds, but he really, really had a hard time in that had a hard time in that series against Edmonton, which led to a lot of issues for Dallas. Moving on to Jani Hakanpää. I know we didn't see him for a while, but feel there's a need to give him sort of a grade as well. Look, didn't get to really finish out his year. Played in 64 games, had 12 points. Hakanpää's a C+, maybe. I mean, just kind of average, right? Never too up, never too down. Him and Suter were a terrible pairing. As much as I hate to say it, maybe with him being out, it didn't allow for Pete DeBoer to put those two together, because I think that could have been a really, really bad showing in the postseason. So we got Petrovic or 5 minutes of Niels Lundqvist a night, and who knows if that was the best decision either. But I don't think Hakanpää and Suter were the best solution as well. Okay, we rolled through the defense there for some player grades. Let's finish up with the netminders, Jake Oettinger and Scott Wedgewood. Some really intriguing conversation about Jake Oettinger. Number one, he's been pretty divisive, I think, the last few years, and people are either pretty high on him or just are out on him for a number of different reasons. I'll give you my grade on Jake Oettinger's season in just a moment. Hey, Locked On Stars fans, I want to take a moment to bring up one of our partners, the mobile game Ultimate Hockey GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Do you think you could run the Stars better than the current GM and Jim Nill? Probably not, but hey, give yourself a chance. You can dream, and those dreams can come true, and this game is most definitely for you. You can manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the seasons, and lead it to glory. Hire the right coaches and staff, trade players or draft picks, navigate through free agency and draft, all in a challenging, realistic game world. It's Ultimate Hockey GM. As a Stars fan, you know there is no offseason. GMs are constantly making moves at every point of the year to improve the team's chances, and that's why I think you are going to love this game. Ultimate Hockey GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. Locked On NHL listeners, by the way, get 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On NHL in the game store. So make sure to check it out. 100% free boost to your franchise with Ultimate Hockey GM, code Locked On NHL. Download the game. Just visit hockeygm.app, hockeygm.app, or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate Hockey GM, start your dynasty today. Time for your net minding grades for the Dallas Stars. We'll go ahead and give Matt Murray, okay, we'll give him some praise. We'll show him some love. He gets an A+. He goes into Minnesota in January. He pitches the shutout and in a big Stars win. One game, that's all you needed, a shutout. Thanks for coming. He goes back to Texas and he finishes out the year in the AHL. But have to give Matt Murray some credit where credit is due. Finish the season, a perfect 1,000 save percentage, doesn't give up a goal, 23 for 23. Talk about efficiency. Matt Murray, heck of a spot start for the young boy. And on a more serious note, with Jake Oettinger, and I've kind of, I don't know if I've thrown this theory out yet on the pod, but I've thrown it around my head plenty of times. Jake Oettinger's season, it felt like 2 seasons in a lot of way. You have the post-surgery in the offseason, gets off to a really nice start, and then he kind of levels out, some real inconsistencies, and then he gets hurt in January in that game against Colorado. You miss him for a month. He comes back in, has a really nice start, burst onto the scene. Then he kind of tapers off, a little bit inconsistent. And then I think for the final month and then the postseason, really, really good. And I think from February on was like his second season within 23-24. And we started to see a lot more of the Jake Oettinger that we were hoping to see earlier in the year in April, and then in that first round against Vegas. I give Jake, if I'm grading on a scale, probably a B. I don't think he deserves an A. It was in terms of a regular season, was not pretty in a lot of moments. He gave up a lot of soft goals, a 2.72 goals against average, and a 905 save percentage. Those are the worst marks of his career so far. He's also just 25 years of age. He just played in his second full season in the NHL, and those were his lowest marks of his career. So I give Oettinger a B. And if you were just grading regular season, maybe a C plus, but I thought his postseason was really good. He was really strong. He made some key stops. He kept Dallas in games. That one save against Stevenson on the breakaway was that game. That was maybe game 5, I believe, to just shut him down. He was brilliant against Colorado. You look at his road record. I know he wasn't great at home, but he was superb away from the American Airlines Center, and he finished really, really strong. So there's some recency bias there, but that's why I don't think I can give him an A in that area. I think he just gets a solid B, and if anything, a B minus. I think he kind of lives somewhere in there. I thought he was everything you could have wanted in the postseason, and I hope he puts to rest these conversations about him being a real franchise goaltender. I don't think he did, unfortunately, with a segment of the fan base. But look, Jake Oettinger is a franchise netminder, and I think he's gonna lead this team to the promised land one year. I really, really do. I think that highly of him. Is he a Shesterkin maybe, or is he Hellenbuck? No, not right now, but he's 25 years old, like he can be. And he's had some incredible runs already in his young career. And I think he can only get better, right? He can only get better. So I'm pretty high on him, maybe higher than some others. But look, Jake is damn good. And I think he deserves to be around here for the next decade because Dallas doesn't have a lot of goaltending depth as it is. And you should be happy with what you have in Jake Oettinger. So that's where I stand. He gets a pretty solid B for me for his campaign, and it had a lot of ups and downs and some roller coasters. It certainly did. Okay. I know I'm pretty soft on some of these. I don't show a ton of love, or I'm not too harsh. I'm not giving any failing grades. I want to take the regular season into account. Look, I think it's fair. It's a full body of work. It's a full season. And, the postseason obviously takes into effect. For Scott Wedgewood, we didn't see him for about 2 months. And that's because Jake was playing all right. And probably a good thing, right? It means the Stars were winning games. But Scott, look, I give him an A. As a backup goalie, what more could you ask for him? He's also maybe an undersung hero for Dallas this year. Jake left for a month, and Dallas really, really fared nicely without him. Granted, I think they outscored a lot of their problems, and they scored over 3.5 goals per game. But, man, Scott was a big part of that. .899 save percentage, 2.85 goals against average. There's not really a game I can point to where I thought, man, he lost you the game. He was the reason Dallas lost that one. He keeps you in most nights. Would love to have him back. That rapport with him and Otter is great. It's a great 1-2 punch. Wedgewood can give you 30, 35 starts a year, and that's all you could ask out of him. Just plays really solid, and obviously he's a wonderful teammate, and I think great for Jake Oettinger's confidence. So as a backup netminder, what more could you ask out of Scott Wedgewood? He was a valuable piece this season for the Dallas Stars when things could have gone awry. He kept him right in the thick of things. So Wedgewood will cap off these rankings, these player grades with an A. Look, I know I'm not as harsh as some of you may want me to be, but I tried to keep it relatively fair to some degree. And look, I think some guys had really nice postseasons, which helped, and some didn't. And look, some of it comes with expectations on what you see out of these players as well. Maybe factor in to some of your rankings. But yeah, that's where I stand on some of these, and we'll dive into some more postseason performances as we go. Look, we'll have 2 to 3 months to discuss these things, so we have plenty of conversations to be had and plenty of off-season discussions TBD. Want to thank you for some love on the 2 guest interviews with Uri and Sam for this week. A lot of fun to jump into just a conversation with them and a discussion. I'm going to continue to do that throughout the postseason. I think it's great to just get more perspectives other than myself just completely rambling to you. I love getting to hear other people's thoughts, and they think differently from me, and Uri thought differently from Sam. And I think that makes for great conversation because I know many of you think along the lines of me, maybe to some degree, or someone else. And the more perspectives we can get on the pod, the better. A more in-depth conversation is always best. Just try to give you guys the best content. I know it's a real boring time in a lot of ways, but we're going to try to be here for you and provide great stuff throughout the postseason. Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. By the way, thank you guys so much for over 3,000 subscribers. You guys were killing it during the postseason. And if we can continue that momentum into next year, man, we'll be in good shape. So thank you very much for your supports and throughout the past season in general. Have a wonderful Thursday. Enjoy it. Enjoy your weekend that's coming up. We'll have a free agent Friday tomorrow. The top free agent forwards the Dallas Stars could be in on. Love some of the choices that Dallas may have an inclination about. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow. So long, Stars fans.